Today, I am going to tell you a story. And you're probably like, Aleya, how is this different than any other time that you've told me a story? Well, today I'm actually doing something I have never done before. I'm taking a recording of me using my crisis story framework and having it available to you here on this podcast. This recording is a live recording of me on stage in front of people delivering a 10-minute keynote at the 2024 Women on the Rise conference presented by the Bra Network in lovely Santa Monica. In this recording, you will see the crisis story framework come to life. So in this episode, I'm going to teach you the crisis story framework, give you a download where you can download it for free, and then give you a live example of how it worked in person. If you are wanting to be able to turn your crisis into clarity, into connection, so that you can inspire and motivate people from the stage, as well as grow your brand and your business, well then, my friend, my dear listener, this episode is for you. All right, let's go.
Welcome to the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast with Aleya Harris. If you're looking for actionable ways to overcome communication and differentiation challenges by sharing radically authentic stories, you are in the right place. Listen in and learn how to stand in the power of your unique narrative to transform your personal life, business, and workplace culture. And now, your host, award-winning international speaker, strategic storytelling consultant, and Japanese whiskey lover, Ruby Coral's mom, Aleya Harris.
I've been using the crisis story framework since I hopped onto the stage several years ago. I just didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know that this is the framework that I was using until I developed Spark the Stage. Spark the Stage is my 6-week on-demand and live taught course that teaches entrepreneurs and executives how to deliver a radically authentic signature talk from the stage. When I was developing Spark the Stage, I didn't want to go out and just make something that was a cookie cutter version of somebody else's program. Instead, what I did was I sat down and said, what have I done that has made me super successful on stage where people pay me thousands of dollars to hear my melodious voice in front of them in the spotlight? One of the things that I came up with was the crisis story framework. It's something that I teach inside of Spark the Stage and something that you are getting a sneak peek of right here on this podcast. Stories and storytelling are how people process the world. That's how they process how they interact with the world, their place in the world, their journey within the world. And it is also how they process information from the stage. I can give you a whole bunch of facts and figures, but none of that is really going to matter much, and I'm not going to remember much of it either. I am, however, going to remember the stories that you tell me. So the crisis story framework I use to help draw people into the conversation. And you'll see how I do that when you listen to the recording here in just a bit. First of all, the crisis story framework has 3 steps to developing it. You don't just pop on the stage and open your mouth and see what falls out. And you aren't just trying to do Mad Libs and plug things into different boxes. You really have to get real with yourself first, and you have to take stock of everything that you've overcome to realize what your crises even are, and more importantly, the crises that are actually going to help people, the ones that are going to be of service to other people. When you've listed all of these crises, first of all, I want you to give yourself a pat on the back because you, my friend, are super resilient. You've survived the crisis. Congratulations. As someone who has gone through some crises of my own, I understand how important it is to take a breath and say, whew, I did that. So you did it. You are here to tell the tale. But the tale is only worth telling if it can help someone else. Being on stage, telling your story is actually not about you. It's about how you are of service to somebody else's story, on somebody else's journey. So after you've done step 1 of getting real with yourself, you need to do step 2 of getting clear with yourself. Dive into each crisis and pull out the lessons that you've learned. What's the moral? What, based on what you've been through, how can you help someone else? Ask yourself questions like, what did I learn from the experience? How did it change my perspective or approach to life? What strengths did I discover in myself through this crisis? What are the common threads across the crises that are clues to my higher purpose? Those are super important things to uncover and discover. That's why you're telling the story in the first place. You can go through some things, but if you don't understand why you went through them, you won't be able to help other people understand why they are going through or how to move through. And the third step is that you get connected. It's time to mold your experiences into a narrative. And remember, the most compelling stories are those that have a structure and a clear progression. They have a beginning, they have a middle, and they have an end. They're not Uncle Bill at Thanksgiving dinner droning on and on about stuff that you really don't care to listen to, right? This is where you want to make sure to add in the so what. Tailor that narrative so that it resonates with the experiences of the people that are listening, the audience that's in front of you, the other human beings that you are trying to connect with. As a reminder, that is what marketing is. That is what speaking is. That is what visibility getting is you building lucrative relationships. But you have to focus on the relationship. You're not talking at people. You are the one who happens to be on the stage. So you are in charge of navigating a collective experience while you're in the room. And a crisis story in a proper framework with a beginning, middle, and end will help you do that. The story itself has 4 sections. You set the scene with the time and place. For example, it was a hot summer day in 2003, but my hands were cold as ice, right? Chilly. Or in the example that you're going to hear in just a minute, I say in 2019, I began my entrepreneurial career as the victim of an abusive relationship. Why is it important, the first thing that comes out of your mouth? Because that's how you captivate people's attention. That's when they start listening to you. You don't want to open with, well, nice to be here. I'd like to thank the organizer. And what beautiful flowers. And hey, Cindy, I see you in the back. That's so not what you're there for. That's not what you're being paid for. You're being paid to create a transformative environment so that they can find their higher selves. And you need to do that by captivating their attention and holding it through the end. So the first step is to set the scene with the time and place. The second step is to articulate the problem that caused the crisis. What happened? Like, what was that event that went boom and just caused your event to be shaken up and down? The third thing that you need to do is to outline the 3 steps on how you resolve the problem, the outcome, and the moral. So here are the things that I did. Here's what I learned. Here's what you can learn. This is how it works for you. And then fourth, you either relate it to the broader presentation context, if you're telling a story within a broader presentation, or you relate it to their context. As you'll see in the example that follows from the Women on the Rise luncheon, I was only giving a 10-minute keynote. These 4 sections are the 4 sections of that keynote. I encourage you to listen for them. I wasn't giving a broader presentation. So I related it back to them. I related it to their why, to a grander sense of why they were sitting there, why I was sitting there at this exact moment in time to give them the information and to tell them the story that I was telling them. So set the scene with the time and place, articulate the problem that caused the crisis, outline 3 steps on how you solve the problem and the outcome and the moral, and relate to the broader presentation context or the broader context in general. That is the crisis story framework. My crisis story framework has been effective even before it had a name. My crisis story framework is what is getting me booked on stages because people hear me telling stories and they want more of it. They want to feel something. They want to be transported. They want to be changed when they leave the room. And that's what stories done in a particular way do for people. As you'll hear coming up, I know I keep saying coming up, but as you'll hear coming up, I follow this framework to a T. And because I did that, I've gotten clients from it. I've gotten closer friendships from it. In the room, 7 individuals, yes, 7, we were women because it was a women's luncheon, came up to me in tears telling me that they felt something. I changed them. They resonated with me. 10 minutes. It was just about 10 minutes of content. And yes, the story is great and it's powerful, but the story framework is really the star of the show that shines and makes this a compelling presentation. So as you listen, see if you can get the 4 parts. You can pick up what I'm putting down, and then also think, I wonder how my story might fit into this framework. All right, now have a listen to my keynote at the Women on the Rise luncheon. I have 10 minutes with you today, so I'm going to tell you a story. As Carrie said, I love stories. In 2019, I began my entrepreneurial journey in an abusive relationship. I was the perfect victim. I was in a job that I hated. I was a sparkly, very cute pink lipstick, round peg in a square hole of blue IBM suits and bald white men. And I couldn't figure my way out. I was lost. And then I met her. She was successful. She was triumphant. She was gorgeous. She was 2 years into her entrepreneurial journey and had already made $500,000. She knew what she was doing, right? So what did I do? I asked her for help, and I received help. But I also received the presence in my life of the narcissistic energy vampire that I didn't know I needed. Every idea she had was better than mine. Every thought, every word, every idea was better than anything that I could ever come up with my puny little brain. And we built my business. And it was months and months and months until one day, I sat there and I realized, I have this business that I actually don't know how to run. She had set things up and she had every step by step. If there were 3 steps, she gave me step 1 and step 2, but I had to come back to her for step 3. So I looked around and I had a business that maybe would have gotten me to that $500,000 mark, but I had no idea what to do with it. And what did that do to me? Instant imposter. Sometimes we look around and we wonder where our imposter syndrome came from. Mine has a name. I'm not going to give it to you. But when I looked into the mirror, I realized that the name was actually mine. So I was playing, like I said in the beginning, the perfect victim. I took no accountability for my life. I took no accountability for my situation. And I said, someone please save me. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's no knight and there's no white horse. Correct? Yes. So when I looked up and I said, I have this business that was supposed to give me all of this freedom, and I have none of it, and then I now am laid off, that happened. What am I going to do? And I had to figure out how to move from this victim place, this place of imposter, this place of my voice is not good enough to tell my own story, to a place where I could step into my power, and I did it in 3 steps. The first step, I did. We had to have a breakup, y'all. Have anyone ever broken up with a friend? It's harder than breaking up with any man or woman or your spouse. It's rough. I mean, I wrote a letter. Like I was in 8th grade. Y'all remember that? Dear Susie. No. I wrote a letter. Her name was not Susie, didn't give it away. Because she didn't want to talk to me, because if any of you have dealt with a true tried and true narcissists, they can't be confronted with any criticism of themselves. So I asked to talk to her. I was a big girl. I put my big girl panties on. She said no. I took them off. And it was a rough breakup, but you know what I got from that moment? Space. Yeah. And you know what happens in space? You get to find yourself. Within that space, I could look at myself and call out the true culprit of the situation, who was me. There are many situations and many victims who did not ask to be a victim, but you know who did ask to be a victim? Me. By giving away my agency, by giving away my energetic sovereignty, I put myself in the role of the perfect victim, and I was tired of it. So I needed to give myself space. And in that space, I started realizing that the only voice that is equipped to tell my story is my own. It is my own. So then I said, well, she became the voice in my head. I told mine to take a back seat long time ago, right? I was like, girl, you don't even know that much anyways. Listen to her, she knows what she's doing. So I had to kick her out, evict her from my head, and go and find out what I really thought, what I had to say, what my voice was, how I could stand in my power. And it was, it was rough. This is not an overnight experience. There were ayahuasca ceremonies in the Amazon that happened. I went to seminars, and I talked to the people and the coaches and the gurus and the meditation and all of the things, all to do something that should actually be pretty darn easy. Within all of us, there is a spark, a light. I call it your radically authentic self, the undiable part, the part that knows, the part that understands your higher purpose without you having to say anything, the part that is guiding you. Omnipresent part of you that is made of pure love, pure light. All you technically have to do, I'll make it real easy for you. Just uncover that part, you'll be fine, you're straight, I'm done. That's what I had to do. I had to uncover that part of me. I didn't have to add anything. I didn't have to get somebody else's voice. I didn't have to read any self-help books. Although I did. I didn't need to, but I did. I just needed to unearth the wisdom that I already had. So I had to excavate her voice and replenish it with my own, the one that was already there. And once I started to do that, I realized, you know what? I like this chick. She's pretty dope. And I wonder if I just worked with her, what we could create together. And that was my third step. I got to creating. Who here has realized that you're a powerful creator? Yeah, man. I like this room. Yeah, buddy. I was late to the party. I had to step into that. And then I started getting curious. Well, what can I create? What can I do if it's just little old me? Don't know nothing. Oh, sorry. I was over here, just a marketing executive with 15 years of experience under my belt and a degree from USC. Nothing, didn't know nothing. What can I create? I created $250,000 in 6 months is what I created. I built a business by unearthing that radically authentic part of me. By changing the story I told myself and by changing the role I played in that story. In a storytelling framework, have you noticed that the hero, the knight, has all the fun? He's the one that goes on all the adventures and slays the dragon and does whatever with the witch in a castle or whatever, right? Well, the damsel, what is pining away in a towel or just straight up asleep? Right? Straight up asleep. I was playing the victim role where no transformation happens. I needed to move from victim to hero and now to guide, the hero role. where everything happens, where transformation happens, where power is found, where adventure happens, where you get to go through the crap, and you're probably going to be wrong and you're going to make mistakes. I made many mistakes. But you know what? You also get to come back for the happily ever after. You also get to come back from the end because you were the one who went on the journey. Victims, imposters, do not go on journeys. They're just waiting to be saved. If many of you are here, like, for some of you I can tell, I don't feel that way. I'm a badass bitch. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the rest of you who maybe ever in your life have felt marginalized, have felt like you couldn't stand in your power, have felt like you couldn't tell your story. Talking to you. Because I felt that way. I really, truly have. And you don't need to do ayahuasca ceremonies or have all the coaching to go through it. You just need to sit with yourself and listen for that voice that already knows. The one that's eager, so eager, to go on the journey. The one that's pushing you out of your comfort zone. The one who's saying, yes, you can do this. We can do this together. As you step into your power and realize who you are as a powerful creator, I want you to realize that life truly is a fairy tale. It is. It's a fairy tale of your own making. But don't play the damsel in distress. Don't play the one who doesn't step out and use their voice. Play the knight in shining armor. My armor is gold and it's studded with diamonds. Play the role in your own story so that you can guide someone else on the journey of theirs. As you step into your power, I invite you today and every day to create your own happily ever after. Thank you. Did you pick up on the 4 parts? Did you see how the crisis story framework was incredibly powerful as a tool to navigate through the story? I wasn't up there just talking about myself. Yeah, sure, I was sharing a story from my life, but it was just in order to get people to believe that they were powerful creators of their own life and to step into the power of their authentic voice. That was the whole reason why I was there. So if you are interested in creating your own crisis story framework, you can go to aleyaharris.com/crisis, CRISIS. Yes, that's right. I can spell. And you can download the crisis story framework PDF so that you can get the 3 steps of creating the crisis story, the crisis story framework itself, and you can have a better understanding of how then your crisis story can help other people. I encourage you as well, if you truly want to make a difference from the stage, to sign up for Spark the Stage. Spark the Stage, again, is the program where I take people through how they can be better speakers from the stage. If you want to be a better speaker from the stage, then I encourage you to do just that and sign up at aleyaharris.com/spark. You are just so close to being that visible entrepreneur, that visible transformative human being that you want to be. You just might need a little bit of help to get on stage to do that, and I would love to help you. As you will see on the page and you'll hear on my socials, people truly are transformed into higher versions of themselves through this program and thus better speakers. So I encourage you to join. Go ahead and sign up at aleyaharris.com/spark. All right. Well, my name again is Aleya Harris. This has been a pretty cool episode, if I do say so myself, of the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast. And until next time, I'm wishing you lots and lots and lots of love, light, and abundance. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast with Aleya Harris. Vibing with what you hear? Leave a 5-star review to spread the love, and be sure to click subscribe. We wish you love, light, and abundance. See you next time.